It is okay.
And I believe we are live. Woo! Thank you all
Yes.
for coming and being here. And I'm very sorry about our technical issues we were having. Thank you for waiting and staying. My name is Corey, and I am with Vroman's Bookstore. And tonight I have the pleasure of hosting Kimberly B. Cummings. She's going to be discussing her book, Next Move, Best Move. It's transitioning into a career you'll love. Before we get going, if you haven't purchased your book, below is a purchase book button that you can just push that and purchase the book at any time during the discussion. You can also go to the website of the book. It's nextmovebestmove.com. You can get more information or order the book there as well. So let's get started. Kimberly B.
Absolutely.
Cummings is a career and leadership expert whose mission is to help women and people of color navigate the workplace, making more money, and becoming industry leaders. Her personal and professional development company, Manifest Yourself, provides organizations with tailor made solutions to hire, develop, engage, and retain women and people of color. Her work has been featured on Forbes, Money Magazine, Teen Vogue, Glassdoor, CNBC, Fox 5, and more. Kimberly is the graduate of Long Island University, where she received a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and also a Master of Science in Counseling. So, hi, Kimberly, how are you?
I'm good, Corey. So happy that we are up and running.
I know. Thank you for waiting and working with me on those tech issues.
No problem.
Um, so let's get into it. This book you've written, Best Move, Next Move, Best Move, Transitioning into a Career You'll Love. So at the beginning of the book, you defined career transitions, but can you tell us in your own words kind of what that is to you?
Yeah, so I think many people think about career transition and they're thinking about that catastrophic move, which is moving from one industry to another, completely different, fish out of water, and you're essentially restarting your career. But a career transition is really any type of career movement. So I talk in the beginning of the book, it's one of the first things I do is define it, like whether you're going internal to your company, external to your company, promotional, lateral, but it's really also a mindset shift too when you're ready to move from just being another employee to really and truly being a leader in your workplace.
So, to move into a leadership role, how does one do that?
I think that's a really good question. I think leadership roles have this mystery about them, right? It's you always think about, well, how do you actually get into that role? And it's so much more than just applying. To move into a leadership role, number one, I will say that it's important to lead in the work that you're doing every single day. When a company hires you, they're hiring you into a role, and that role has tasks, assignments, project, and it's your role to lead that body of work. You don't have to have the traditional leader title or manage a team in order to be considered a leader. You have to lead the body of work that you have. But when we're talking about moving into leadership roles from a traditional sense, that's a lot more about positioning, not only aligning with yourself, your strengths, your passions, your interests, but also aligning with that company, their values, and the work that they need you to do in that role. And I think a lot of times we kind of look for the chance versus aligning ourselves to make sure that it really and truly is our best move.
Oh, so so then cultivating? So then you would need the work relationships, right, for all of that to happen. Can you tell us a little bit about like how to form the work relationships that you would move with leadership roles, or Yeah.
Yeah. So there are 4 key types of relationships that I think are really important as you're navigating the world of work. So I label those as your peers. So those are people who are inside and outside of your industry who kind of help you do your work every single day. Those are your colleagues. Then you also need teachers who can really teach you a skill. So let's say you're trying to position yourself for a manager level role and you haven't yet managed a team. These are the people who will teach you how to do that. If you haven't managed a larger body of work, let's say you work in advertising and you've worked on smaller accounts in healthcare, now you're going to be working on larger accounts in finance. They would be able to teach you the ins and outs of that industry. Next up, you have your mentors. Those are the folks who've really been there, done that, who can really help you in the moment feedback and the attention that you need in your day-to-day responsibilities. And last but not least are the sponsors. And that's probably the type of relationship that most professionals need a lot more of, because the sponsors are the folks in your career who have the influence and power to move you to the next level. I always joke and I say that sponsors can take you from where you are to where you rightfully belong. Someone else recently, yes, I'm like, that's my favorite thing to say. And I think someone else recently also told me that sponsors are the ones who literally add money to your pocket, which I think is another way of saying it, because they're in these rooms of influence and power that you are not invited to, and they're able to pull you into those rooms. And generally, when you're getting pulled into a higher level role, it also is attached to some dollars that you'd be making as well.
Well, that's always nice.
Yes.
How do you advocate for yourself in and out of the workplace to be able to manage those relationships? Did that come out right?
So advocating for yourself, I think, is a very large topic and arena. And there's so many different ways that we can talk about it. So I'd love to know in the chat, if you've had a issue advocating for yourself or want more insights, please write in the chat what piece of advocating for yourself you'd like for us to chat a little bit more about tonight. But I think in the general sense, before you start to advocate for yourself, you have to understand, what is it that you really and truly want? Is it more money? Is it a better relationship with your boss? Is it getting onto higher level projects? Is it more of a mitigation of problems and you need to kind of mediate with you and your boss or someone else because there's been conflict? Advocating for yourself is really about standing up for what's important to you, your values, and your interests in the workplace. But it can go into any of those categories.
Okay. Let's end in negotiation. Like you say, if you want to go into negotiation, what advice do you give someone when they're going to be negotiating with, say, a sponsor or someone higher than at their peer level? You know, like, is there a negotiation that goes on in those level at a higher level? And when you're advocating for yourself, is that part of the negotiation?
So I think there can always be a part of a negotiation. It sounds like you're talking more about salary negotiation, which is always a hot topic. So we're talking.
That is, how do you ask for more money? That's always been my biggest. Okay, personally, I'll go personal. It's the hardest thing for me to do. These are the 2 hardest things for me to do: ask for more money or quit.
Complete opposite ends of the spectrum.
So yeah, but and so how in I guess that would be both advocating and negotiating, wouldn't it?
I think so. And I think someone in the chat said something kind of similar, like quitting, almost like getting a reduced workload, et cetera. So I'll do the salary first, and then I'll kind of talk about kind of leaving a job or reduced workload. So when you're negotiating a salary, the key thing I tell folks is that you're not waiting to get the offer to negotiate. That's where I think a lot of people mess up, is that they're waiting for the employer or their manager to say, oh my gosh, like, we're going to offer you $75,000 per year. What do you say? When you know your heart was set on 105 and you wait to get the 75, and then you have to feel like you have to climb up this hill to get to 105. But that's not really how it works. When you're thinking about going out for a new position or interviewing for something or going for an internal promotion from the role that you're at, the process starts much sooner. The process starts when the interviews just begin, your first interaction with the employer, or that first career conversation where you make it known to someone that you're interested in moving into that role. And throughout the process, you are aligning yourself to that new role so you can show your impact and your value. The goal is to get a really, really great offer. You always want a great offer. You don't want to get a bad offer that you have to kind of grit and get all the way up to what you want. You want to make sure that you get a great offer. And if you don't, and you do really have to go to bat for yourself, you're advocating not on your own desire for wanting more money, but on your skills. What are your experiences that you've had that are going to make you better at that job? What is the value that you bring that no one else can do better than you? What are the skills and the strengths that align to the work that you're doing that is so much better? And you would be able to bring so much value to the organization. On the other side, when you're talking, did you want to say something, Corey?
Nope.
On the other side, when we're talking about a reduced workload, I'll hit that first and then leaving. I think the leaving is a little easier, but when it's the reduced workload, I'm really big on strategic planning. I'm not someone who just wants to say, hey, this isn't a fit. I don't really think I can do this anymore. I like to show people the breadth and the scope. I have a group coaching program where I kind of go over how to present a strategic work plan for an idea that you have. And when you're looking to reduce your workload, many times managers don't understand how much work you do have and how much time it's taking you. I always recommend really pulling that out so they understand how much work, what does it look like? Where's your time being spent? What would you be able to do if you had a reduced workload and be able to focus on one or two things versus the 5 or 6 things that you have? And when it's time for you to quit, I think you just put that letter of resignation in and let them know that it's time to go. I think it's a hard conversation, but most of the time that's a quick one. So it's a lot easier.
Yeah. On that whole, the work, I have someone here. When is it too soon to ask for a raise in a position? And I think this has to do with the workload. Someone else's workload says, oh, so they're not just doing their job. It looks like they're doing someone else's job too.
Yeah.
So how could this person navigate that?
So I don't think it's too soon to necessarily ask for a raise. I think if you've proven that you have got your job down, and it sounds like you've gotten a third of someone else's job down, I think it's okay. It's hard to ask for a raise if you haven't really mastered your job, because that you need to be showcasing that you've got your job down and you're almost operating at a higher level in order to make more money. So you've got that down. Looks like you have your job. You've been there 1.5 years, which is a solid amount of time. You've gotten a third of someone else's workload, and the responsibilities are out of scope. So the first thing I'd ask is, would you like the responsibilities to be in scope? Would you like to have a larger, more expanded role? How could this additional responsibility that you've gotten, how can you leverage that to take you to another arena? Because many times that, age-old line on resumes and job descriptions that say like other duties as assigned, I think many times employers can really get away with a lot of things because it says other duties as assigned. But I would want you to think more strategically. What about this workload has given you more skills? What has this workload been able to teach you? What more value and impact could you create with this increased salary? So I think showcasing your ability to execute at a high level is a great way to ask for a raise. You've had these additional responsibilities for XYZ amount of months. You've been able to master your job plus this third of someone else's job. Based upon this and the impact that you've created, you would think it's appropriate to receive XYZ amount of money as for a raise. Or you could do that, and you could also think about, is a new role needed? Should you be adding someone to your team to kind of help with this workflow? You can almost play it either way, depending upon what your career goals are.
And in making that next career move, or even asking for more responsibility. And would that be kind of the same? Even if you're in the same company and you ask for a step up, a promotion, I guess you get a promotion, but if you're asking for a higher level job or applying to that within the same company, does that fall under the same advice to
Yes,
just know where you're going into, or to make sure that if you're asking for this, that you know you can do it? And
I think whenever you're asking for more, whether it's more money, it's a different role, a higher level role, it's important to showcase like why, your impact and your value. I think, and it's not just that you've been in a role a year and a half or that you have been able to meet expectations throughout the time. What I share with my clients, and some people think it's a little harsh, but people don't get promoted for meeting expectations. Meeting expectations lets you get a paycheck. That's what you're there to do. That's, you've been told to perform these tasks in exchange for your paycheck. Meeting expectations is what you're supposed to do. In order to get promoted, to move into more senior roles or more exciting roles, you have to showcase impact and value and be performing a little closer at a higher level in order to make sure that you're aligned with that other role. I'm not sure if have you read The Big Leap before by Gay Hendricks? So The Big Leap is, it's one of my favorite books, and it's a lot about mindset. So Gay Hendricks has 4 categories that he talks about when it comes to like your mindset and how you work and when you show up best in the world. So those 4 are, 1 is zone of incompetence. That's when like you're not doing things that you're supposed to be doing. It's essentially in the workplace that would be like below expectations when we're talking about performance designations. Next up is meets expectations, and that is zone of competence. Like, you know, you're doing what you're supposed to do. That's good, right? You're good. Like you're almost like that average, right? You're doing what you're supposed to do every single day. Next up then is zone of excellence. And that's where a lot of people get stuck. That's where you get that exceeds expectations. You're doing great, right? You're doing better than the norm. So that's good. Like it's really good. But where a lot of people don't get is that distinguished, that higher level. That's the zone of genius. And in The Big Leap, he talks about how that zone is where nobody can touch you. You are operating in your strength. There is no competition because that is exactly where you're supposed to be. And like Keisha said, you've exceeded your expectations, that what your manager said. So that's perfect. When you've exceeded expectations, that's the perfect time to start asking. But when we're talking about that, looking for a raise or promotion, it's important that you start thinking about, are you in exceeds expectations or distinguished, operating in your zone of excellence or your zone of genius? And that's where the magic happens in order to negotiate more money, better jobs, all of those things.
I have to read this other book too.
It's one of my
favorites. What about personally for you? Can you tell us about a time that you've had a career transition, and like what was that like for you? Or
definitely, I've had several, I think, throughout my career. I hope I wrote a book that talks about transitioning. So I've had quite a few. I think like most people, I fumbled a lot in the beginning of my career. There's a line in the book where I say I got ambiguous jobs because I was ambiguous. Like I was someone who needed work. So I got jobs that they needed someone to work because I wasn't really aligning to anything. I just wanted a job. But when I had one of my first jobs that, you know, that was paying well, I was good to go. I was a personal banker, but I was really, really unhappy. I was doing okay. I was probably like meets expectations. My sales goals were a little hard to reach. Wasn't really enjoying it. And I thought to myself, when was the last time I was happy? Because I knew I had to do something that was better than where I was. And I was like, where could I go when I was happy? And for me, I was a few years out of undergrad. I was like, you know, I was happy when I was in higher education. But I didn't think about any jobs there during that time. I was like, people work at college campuses. What could I do? I was essentially working in financial sales as a banker, doing investments, loans, mortgages. I had my Series 6, 63, life and health. I was like, how could I package these skills up in order to do something that I want, something that I love. So when I looked at jobs in higher education, admissions seemed like a really good place I can kind of kick off. And if you think about it, financial sales, admissions is educational sales. But in that transition, one of the quickest things I learned is how to align myself to that career. Because from the top of my mind, it's like, Kim, you were what, like getting people ready for mortgages? How are you going to sell kids like on a college? That doesn't make sense. But the core skills for a banker are building relationships with clients, recommending products and services, evaluating someone's current instance and seeing where they should go next. And it's the same thing. You're building relationships with college advisors, students, and parents. You're recommending majors, programs, financial aid, all of those things, and ultimately helping facilitate an easy transition into college. They're very, very similar when you take out all the finance mumbo jumbo. And that was one of the first transitions I made during my career that really catapulted a lot of decisions I made after that.
Can you just give us a small definition of what you think the difference is there between like a job and a career?
Definitely. So in most cases, unless we are independently wealthy, and I know I am not independently wealthy, it means that you need a job. Like you need to make money. So therefore, you work somewhere in exchange for money, and it's a job, right? If you lost that job, you'll go get another one. You're not necessarily thinking about upward movement, lateral movement. It's just, how can I get like the money to live and pay my bills? And I think a lot of us have had jobs, period. We've all had to. However, when you have
a job.
Yes.
That's what I would call.
Yes. However, when you have a career, that's when you have a much more vested interest in your own personal and professional development as it aligns to that job, to that industry, to that company that you want to see, like how far can you go? You are taking pride in the work every single day and that you want to get better. You want to get promoted. You are excited to learn and grow and excel in that field versus, just having a job and you clock in and you clock out.
How do you know what kind of career you want to have?
That's a heavy question. I think that I tell folks that, careers change all the time. People ask me like, oh, did you know what you wanted to be when you were a kid? And I was like, no, I said I wanted to be Whitney Houston. That was my career goal for a very long time, to be Whitney Houston. I think things change about our views of the world of work and what we want to do. One of my favorite stories in the book I tell is about what I thought work was going to be like, being a marketing major and working in advertising. There's this movie called Two Can Play at That Game, and Gabrielle Union is one of the main characters. And then there's this moment where she's having an interaction with another character. She's in a full red suit, got out of her convertible, like whips the ponytail, I don't even have hair, over her shoulder. Her friend had like the corner office with the secretary. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is what's going to happen to me. But I didn't know, I had no idea like how long, what do they major in really? When did they get out of college? How old were they currently? What were the steps before they got there? So I think it's great to have a vision for what you'd like for your career, but it's important to allow some flexibility. And what I like to say, some magic to go in there, because opportunities from sponsors may pluck you from where you are and put you someplace else that you didn't imagine. But in terms of what should you do next, how do you know? I think it's important to understand, what are you good at? What are you good at?
Yeah.
And what do you like? Because let's build careers based upon our strengths. Imagine how happy you'd be if you're doing things that you're good at. Not to say you can't improve other things, because we all do naturally, but think about what you like and what you're good at. And then think about what you feel like you can do over the next 2 years. It's so easy to get wrapped up and think of what you can do forever. But what
do you mean by like what you can do for the next 2 years? Like, do you mean by what you can do to get yourself into that position, or? Okay.
What's the type of job that you feel like you'd be interested in doing for the next 2 years? It doesn't have to be forever. When I work with my clients, I ask them, where would you like to be in 10 years? And I snap my fingers, like, tell me quick. Like right now, what is the first image that comes to your mind in 10 years? And
I want to
then
live on a sailboat. I want to have 5 books on the shelf, and I want to be able to visit my parents whenever I want.
perfect. Okay. So where would you need to be in 5 years to get to the 10 years?
Ooh, writing a lot more than I do.
Okay.
Probably learning how to sail. I don't.
Got
I
it.
was
So
sorry. I was just trying to be like, okay.
yes, but it sounds like you want to be an author with 5 books on the shelves at the end of 10 years. So I would say, okay, what do we need to do in 5 to get you to the 10? And then we cut it down again. What do we need to get you to, where do you need to be at the 2-year mark to get to the 5-year mark? And then we start working back in 6-month increments. What is it that you need to do? Are you looking to self-publish? Are you looking to traditionally publish? Does that mean the next 6 months you need to locate an agent, work on your book proposal so that you can have your first book come out in 12 months? And then what do you need to make sure that sets you up for the next book deal? Because if you want 5 books by 10 years, I'm assuming in 2 years, we at least need 1 or 2 out already.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean,
we gotta pump it to get you on that ship so you can sail. But you start to work backwards and start giving yourself markers. So for you, it sounds very tangible about writing. Figuring out what these books are, getting the books out, making the connections, the relationships. I know you want to sell these books too. So what are the activities you need to do to get you set up to be able to sell books and make them profitable? For someone who, let's say, is for me, when I was in career services, I spent almost 10 years in university career services. And my goal when I first started was to become a director of career services. So I knew I needed like 7 to 10 years of experience to become a director of career services. And I was at year 1. So I looked at other people who were directors in career services. I'm like, what skills did they have? What were they doing? How did they get there over the span of 10 years or whatever time it took them? And I learned, okay, I was currently counseling undergraduate students, but I had to learn to make sure I had undergraduate, graduate, and alumni to increase my populations. I had to make sure that I understood programming. How do I do internal and external programming? How do I learn how to work with employers to get them to recruit on campus and build partnerships that way? I kind of broke down what were the skills that I needed to obtain in order to make sure I was ready for that director of career services job when the time came. And that's really, if you're not sure what to do, I'm very big on like picking something. You don't have to do it forever. You are not a tree. You can move, just like Jim Rohn says. So figure out what are you doing and what are you learning from that job? When I moved jobs in career services, if I'm honest, I didn't love each position, but I knew those are the skills that I needed. I was in that job for a purpose. I wasn't just there playing around. I was there because I needed to get the skill, master it, and then move on to the other thing to make sure I was ready. And sometimes jobs are like that. So when you're making these decisions, think about what skills you'll be gaining from this job that could potentially help you get closer to that 10-year vision.
That's make me want to go right now. I have so many questions for you, but I don't want to go off topic on what we were on. But it's more just you, like, so when you're talking about the director of career transitions
services, yes.
Services, sorry. So how you have your business. Let me get back to my notes.
Oh no, go ahead.
Manifest yourself. With doing your 10 years of on the campus doing your jobs, when did you come up with Manifest Yourself, or how, or is that a part of it, or was that a separate transition?
So a combination.
Did that make sense?
Yes, it did. So I started my career in career services in 2011. I started my company in 2013. So I was doing them both. I guess you could say I was side hustling for a very long time. Yeah, so I was kind of doing both at the same time, building my business, experimenting with different things, building up clientele. I do a lot of public speaking as part of my company, Manifest Yourself. Now a lot of press and media talking about various career development theories and situations like equal pay for women, or how to make a career transition or relationship building, all of those things. And then after my time in career services, I actually moved back into corporate America, and I served as the director of global diversity talent acquisition strategy at a Fortune 100 company in financial services. So I did that for, I think 2.5 years. And I recently left in May. So now, after all that time, I'm doing my company full time. So it took me.
You left corporate America.
I did. I left corporate America.
And you're now
done
just working for yourself.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I did it until the wheels fell off. I like it. I'm very happy. And I have no idea how I was doing both for so long. No idea.
So, and then with, can you tell us just a little bit more about Manifest Yourself?
Definitely. So Manifest Yourself is a leadership development company. And like you shared earlier, my mission is to help women and people of color navigate the world of work, make more money, and position themselves as leaders. So I have programming that I run through Manifest Yourself. So I have a Next Move, Best Move Accelerator program for professionals. It's a 4-month leadership development program. I also go into companies and organizations and teach different trainings and facilitate various things. And I also do diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting.
You do so much. And you do coaching on top of this, right?
Well, the coaching really is in the Accelerator program now. So I bring everyone together and it's much more formalized with teaching. Yes.
Okay. So do you ever do any like one-on-one or with like just a particular like group of individuals or?
So I don't do as much one-on-one anymore. It's very rare. Most folks are in my group program, the Next Move, Best Move Accelerator. And that brings people through the process of really understanding where they are in their career, building out a 2-year career strategy, mastering workplace communications, presenting strategic ideas, and identifying what their next move needs to be and making sure that's integrated into their plan. And they get bi-weekly coaching with me and other career coaches, a whole suite of lessons over the span of 4 months.
And where can someone sign up for this? Is this on the website for the book or?
Yes. So they go to KimberlyBCummings.com. All of my information is there on KimberlyBCummings.com.
I'm going to write this in here for everyone.
Yes. Yes, I could type it too, but yes, my name.
Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
KimberlyBCummings.com. Okay. So everyone, you heard it from Kimberly. You can go to her website and sign up for her, what's it called again?
The Next Move, Best Move Accelerator program.
That's a tongue twister. How'd you come up with that title?
You know what?
Best Move.
Someone asked me that earlier, but I went back and I was like, where did I get this? And I did a presentation at a conference in 2017, and it's the same title as my book. And I guess it stuck with me. And clearly I took what was a 60-minute presentation and put it into 54,000 words. But I thought of it for that presentation and I just didn't let it go since then. And also, I really do believe that no career moves ever need to be made unless they really are your next best move. Like, why make a move if it's not going to be better? If you should be moving with a purpose.
I like that, moving with a purpose. It's kind of like a rebel without a cause.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share about the book that we haven't, that like maybe we haven't covered, or that or anything particular that you want us and your audience to know about?
Well, I put in any questions quickly so I can answer if you have them. I can't tell how many people are on here, but let me know. But I think that for me, the book I'm proud of the book so much because it's a manual. It's not just me telling stories and telling you about myself and things that have happened. But at the end of each chapter, I have a section called Your Next Move, where I'm literally telling you what you need to do to make your next move. It's the same thing as my podcast. My podcast is called the Your Next Move podcast because I'm trying to teach you what you need to do to make that move. And I think it's so important that even if you don't want to read the whole book, I want you to read the whole book. You're not off the hook. But if you like to swim and you want to go ahead, if you read the Your Next Move section at the end of each chapter, it literally gives you the steps that you need to take in order to take your career to the next level.
So it's like a cheat. You just gave us the cheat sheet. You just gave us the
Cliff notes. Yeah.
The cliff
If
notes.
you're like,
Thank
no, I
you.
need to get this new job. Go ahead and read the Cliff Notes in the Your Next
What are
Move
the
section.
cliff notes? Let's get this going.
Yes.
No, but your book is really well written. Everybody, you should buy the book. It's very well written. It's a wonderful book, and it's all like there's steps in there that I had my own questions, but we're running out of time. Is there any final career advice you would want to give your audience right now before we wrap up? Like just any, like maybe general or just anything off the top of your head?
So go ahead.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, I think my final piece of advice for tonight is to go for what you want, not what you think you can have. I think many times when we're thinking about career moves, we kind of think, okay, well, this would be reasonable. Or, you know what, I've only been there this amount of time. Let me just try and get this. No, go for what you really want and base all of your decisions and all of your negotiations on the excellence that you're bringing to the workplace. Be excellent. Work hard, show the impact and the value that you bring, and go for the gusto. Don't try and go for half steps. My dad always says, like, stop half stepping. Like, we don't like half steppers out here. So no half stepping. Take the full step into a career that you'll love.
What advice would you give someone who might be like a little skeptical of themselves or have a little bit of fear of confidence, or say like they've got maybe some self-esteem issues or something, and they're like, can I do this? Even though they know they can do it, is there something that you can tell someone that's like, hey, you've got this, in a, I guess, a better way than what I just said?
So number one, I'd say that everyone has a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of imposter syndrome, a little bit of, can I really do this? Most people have a little bit of that in them. So it's normal. And number two, look back and look at your results. One of the things I have at every job I've had, and now in my company, I have a happy folder. In the happy folder, I put any testimonials I receive, any kudos emails of a job well done. I put all of my trackings of the great things that I've done in that happy folder. So when I'm having a day where I don't feel as confident, I can go back through the happy folder. And the same thing goes for like any positive feedback you've received, looking at your performance appraisals, even just reviewing your year and thinking about what you've accomplished. So today is my birthday, and every year on my birthday, I go back and I look and be like, okay, what have I done? Like I may be like melancholy and I'm like, well, you know what, Kim, you actually were able to do quite a few things this year. Like go ahead and have the glass of wine and celebrate. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This is the last event of my book tour on my birthday.
Oh my gosh, happy birthday. We should have started with that.
Okay. I'm not good at telling people it's my birthday. I'm really not good at it.
I'm not either. Although I'm really good at celebrating it. Like I'll get a cake. I'll eat that whole thing to myself and be like, yeah.
I don't tell anyone. I had a coffee meeting with someone this morning, and I don't know how we started talking about zodiac. She's like, oh my gosh, you're a Cancer. And I was like, yeah, I'm a Cancer. She's like, what date is your birthday? And I was like, today.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yes.
Well, happy birthday. I'm so glad that I get to wish you the hat. And
yes.
But you know what? It looks like we have a question. Do you mind answering one more question?
No, not a problem.
Okay, so what it says, we got two more now. Okay, do you have any advice for how to deal with burnout? Ooh, that's a good one. How to deal with burnout, how to take days off, or a temporary solution. Is there a way to change our work ethic to keep our mental bandwidth sustainable?
That's
good.
That's a good one. Burnout is real, and I think it's trying to figure out, what do you really need? Because I do agree that sometimes PTO is not enough. Many times taking that day off, you don't need a day, you need a week, you need 2 weeks, you need a month, you need more than that. Yeah. I'm like, I have seen a lot. If you really and truly feel like it is like you need some time, one of the things I always recommend is looking at your leave policy at your company. There are so many different types of leave that you're eligible for. I've taken leave myself because I am someone who is known to work myself to the ground. And I can't help it. It's just I've done it before. So maybe you need time to revitalize yourself. Maybe you need to set some boundaries. One of my other books, I think it's called Setting Boundaries. It's new by Netra. She's a therapist or a doctor of psychology. I'll look it up and I can tell you later. But it's a really popular book right now. And a lot of times it's helpful to set boundaries. So when I know I'm getting close to burnout, it's like, okay, I need to log off by 5 o'clock every single day. I need to actually take a full lunch break every single day. I also start to manage my calendar a lot more rigorously to make sure that things don't just happen. And many times, a lot of professionals who work with me, they're like, well, I can't ask for, or I can't ask for. And I was like, yes, you can. And many times when you push back, like, hey, I'm already booked solid this day. Do you mind if we meet? Yes, Tiffany, thank you so much. I had it all backwards, but thank you so much, Tiffany, for putting it in the chat. Many times when you push back and you ask and you're like, hey, like, do you mind if we have this meeting next week? Most of the time people will say, okay. Don't be afraid to start ruthlessly blocking out your calendar and giving yourself more time to make sure that after you take that PTO or after you come back from a leave, that you're still able to kind of keep going because your mental bandwidth is so important. Taking care of yourself mentally is so important because if you're not at your best mentally, you definitely can't give your best work.
Oh, I agree. So when you say you actually take your lunch break and you do things like for yourself, because you're now working for yourself, so you're not given that time. You have to take that time. So is it?
Oh, yeah.
And is it harder to take that time on your own than it is to ask for it from someone else?
So I'm a bit of a workaholic, so I'm probably not the right person to ask. But I just actually met with one of my mentors and we kind of looked at my calendar. And if you follow me on Instagram, sometimes I post my calendar in the morning. I block out the details, but I kind of show like what's happening. And this week, I think it was Wednesday. Today's Thursday. Yeah, it was yesterday. So I don't even know what day it is. It was yesterday where I had a full stack of regular meetings and I had 3 speaking engagements. And
Wow.
I can normally do 2 in a day and I'm all right if I have enough time. But by that second one, I'm wiped. So I had 3 plus regular meetings. I was like, this can't happen again. I can't do this. And we really sat and we looked at my calendar and determined like, well, when is my energy high? When can I meet with people? When is a good time for me to meet during the week? How many meetings should I start capping at? So sometimes I'll have 10, 15 meetings in a week. And it's like, all right, let's cut that down to maybe 4 plus my regular stack of meetings that happen every single week. So I'd say yes and no. Yes, because I have a little bit more autonomy over cutting things, but I'd say no because I tend to not cut things and I tend to want to do all of the things. So I have to catch myself. I'm working on most likely hiring some folks to kind of help take the load away of all the things that I'm doing. Yes, delegating.
So the coach has a coach.
Yes, always.
That's awesome. There's another question. Do you mind answering?
Of course. I see it.
Do you have any advice for how to keep going on what to do when in a position that you know it is time to move on, but you can't necessarily move on just yet? Interesting.
Great. So if you know, well, my follow-up question would be, do you know what your next move is? If you know you can't move now, which is fine, what is your next move? And if you know what your next move is, how can you prepare yourself for that move? Are there certain projects that would be great for you to work on? Are there certain relationships that would be great for you to build? What are the things that can help prepare you for that next move so when you get there, you're ready to go? And if you know it's time for you to move on, but you don't know where you should go, this is the time to really start having some exploratory conversations, understanding what some of your options may be. So again, you can make a decision on where you'd like to go and navigate a little bit easier when that time comes.
That's good. Well, I think that's all of our questions. And we are beyond the hour. Do you have anything else you'd like to share?
I don't, but I do want to thank everyone for coming tonight. And this is my final event on the book tour. So I'm so grateful for Vromans for partnering with me and you for having this conversation. It's been phenomenal. And everybody here who had so much patience with us tonight, I'm so happy that y'all are here and we're here for this great conversation.
Yes, I agree. And thank you for working with me on the tech issues. And
No worries.
I'm sad that this is like your last kind of book, the last event of your book tour. But at the same time, you probably get to relax a little now and just kind of. Do you have another book coming out? Are you writing another book? Okay.
I asked my publicist for 1 week off. The formal book tour is over, but I'm doing events. I'm already booking through November. But I can give you all a little preview. I hope that we'll be talking again in maybe another year and a half. My next book, I want it to be about management. So I'm working on a book that's going to teach people how to manage up, manage down, and manage across. I want Next Move, Best Move to be a series. So book 2 is going to be on management. And we'll see. Maybe when I pick myself off the floor and get a good nap, I'll be able to write some good words, because right now any word I'm writing is not a good one. So I need to get some brain power back.
Well, you just said you got to take care of that, right?
Exactly.
All right. Well, this was beautiful. And thank you so much, everyone, for showing up. And if you need to purchase the book, you can purchase the book by pressing that little green button. Also, you can go to the website.
nextmovebestmovebook.com.
What she said. nextmovebestmovebook.com. All right. And I think this is a wrap.
Yes. We will talk soon, y'all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.